All right, now at Zero Block 30, I'm privileged to have a guy that's going to be racing for Barstool Sports after just a couple days. So to give the listeners a little bit of a background of what happened here, we're having Keith McGee on. He is going to drive NASCAR Truck Series in Charlotte for the Memorial Day weekend race that's coming up. But when we stepped out on, I believe it was Monday morning, we stepped out of the podcast and I checked Twitter. I had probably 5 or 6 tags that were like, look at this dude. He's a disabled veteran, Air Force veteran, lost his sponsorship. I texted Dave right away. I was like, this guy is an electric factory. I checked out your Instagram. I was like, we gotta sponsor it. He stepped up and did it. Kind of walk us through what your emotions were. I guess it was Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday.
No, it was Monday. So Monday morning, I was feeling really discouraged, like having the sponsor pull out this racing on Memorial Day weekend, being the only veteran that's racing this weekend was, it was a big race for me. Like I wanted to be there, just with the, just the aura around it and what it means for everything. And then to have a sponsor back out last minute, like it's really difficult to find sponsors that want to come out and help out in racing. And so to have one pull out and, not really have any other options, was really discouraging. So Monday morning, I was definitely, definitely feeling it, definitely feeling the pressure, trying to do everything I could to make it happen. And I decided, stranger things have happened on social media and the power of the internet. And so I threw it out there on Twitter. And, I think Monday morning I had 200 followers on Twitter. And a few of them jumped on and started tagging people. And I saw them tagging you guys, and I was like, hey, that'd be pretty cool. Like, I'd love to have you guys on board. And then all of a sudden, I noticed that like it was getting a lot of traction. And then I saw Dave retweeted my tweet, and I was like, at first I was like, that's not really the real Dave Portnoy. Like, there's no way. And then I went and looked at his Twitter, and I was like, oh man, like this is really Dave. And then I checked my my DMs. And he was in the message request section and, just said, what do you need? And I told him, and he said, let's make it happen. And, so Monday was such a roller coaster ride, like from really just that discouraged feeling to, being on cloud 9 and realizing, like, it's going to happen. I'm going to make this race.
Yeah. And to give you a little behind the scenes on our side, I texted Dave, and Dave is notorious. If he doesn't get back to you within like 2 minutes, you're not going to hear anything back because he gets so many text messages and you just get pushed down so far. And I didn't hear anything back for like 15, 20 minutes. So I started texting some other people that are higher up at Barstool. And then 20 minutes later, he texts me. He's like, we got it. You're good. We're going to sponsor it. I was like, fuck yes. And then I went back to your Instagram again because I wanted to wait to write the blog. I checked it out, and honest to God, it looks like you should have a baby with our co-host Kate, because her boyfriend that she has a baby with, big time mullet guy. You're a mullet guy, Air Force veteran, could not fit in with the Zero Block 30 crew anymore. Like, it's just not possible. I want to give our listeners a chance to get to know you a little bit, because I went and read some of your bios, and your story is pretty amazing, like of what you're doing now and how you got there. So you started your NASCAR career, or your NASCAR interest came from your dad, and living in California, you had the Intimidator was your favorite. Dale Earnhardt was your favorite driver. And now you're driving the number 3 car on Memorial Day weekend. What is that going to feel like?
It's so hard to describe. Like, it couldn't be more fitting. Like, everything like coming together, like to run the number 3 in NASCAR is like, what?
It's like wearing 23 in basketball.
Yeah. Right. It's like how like amazing it is to just be able to get in such an iconic number on Memorial Day weekend, with everything that's happened. Just like I think it's going to take a long time for it to fully set in, like, like what it means and, that feeling. But I'm so incredibly grateful for just this opportunity to even, be able to sit here and talk to you right now, and to be able to get out there with you guys on the track and run the number 3. It's going to be wild.
And your start in racing, I thought, honest to God, I was like, there's no way this dude is on a NASCAR circuit, and he started out in go-karting as an adult. How did that happen?
35 years old.
35 years old out there on the go-kart.
5 years ago, I had never been in a race car, right? Never. It was a childhood dream, but I'd never been able to do it. And I started going to an indoor kart track in Alaska, they opened up and I was like, cool, I'm going to go do this. This is probably the best I'm ever going to get. So, like I'm going to go out and make it happen. And I went and I was good. And I think the biggest thing I started to take away from it was when I was on the cart for like those 15 minutes, like I didn't have any of the worries, like I've got a PTSD diagnosis, and like all the things that would trigger me, like they didn't on the go-kart. And I felt complete and I felt whole. And it was like such an intoxicating feeling, like it was like the best form of therapy I could probably have asked for. And so I kept going. Like I'd go like 4 to 5 times a week to the go-kart track. And pretty soon I'm the #1 driver in the state, set the track record. I was winning. I think out of 115 races, I had like 90 or 80 first place finishes, like an ungodly amount of first place finishes. And so I just kept going like 4 to 5 times a week, was #1 in the state, won a karting championship there. And one night some older gentleman approached me and said, hey, you ever thought of racing in NASCAR? And I was like, yeah, it's my entire life I've thought of that. Like that's all I want.
And that seems like a bullshit Netflix movie, right? Like you're just on a go-kart circuit in Alaska. Next thing you know, you get picked out of the, like they're like, you're really good. Why don't you try the biggest stage that the sport has?
Yeah, like either that or the guy wanted to cut me into a million pieces and ship my body around the country, right? Like it's just one of those things that doesn't happen.
Right.
So, but anyways, that got me into the semi-pro levels of NASCAR, and I did really good. I got a lot of national attention from it, and that led me to run the K&N series down in the West Coast. It's a NASCAR's first level touring series, and NASCAR makes us go through these levels to kind of prove to NASCAR that we have the capabilities to be doing what we're doing. So we don't just spend a bunch of money and jump into something and wreak havoc on everything. So I went and did that, and was in really low budget team, and I did a lot better than I was expected to do. Had a couple top 10 finishes, and got invited to go down and do testing at Daytona, which was a track that as a kid I always dreamed of driving on. So I went down, and I think I blew everybody's expectations out of the water in the testing, and posted some really fast times, and that led to more opportunities for me to jump up to the truck series level. And here I am. Made my first start April 17th. At Richmond, Virginia, went out, did good, started dead last and finished 30th. So, had a really fun time.
And I think that stories like yours is very important we've been talking about mental health pretty often here on the show, and listening to a story like yours is so important to a lot of people, because there's times, I'm sure, with the PTSD diagnosis, because of the way that the media often frames PTSD, you and I can't speak for you, but a lot of people feel like you turn into broken goods a little bit. Like you're like, am I going to be able to really chase after my dreams, accomplish these things? Or am I just another statistic of a disabled veteran? Is that who I am? And seeing a story like yours, like, no, you can be that, and you could do so much more. You could still accomplish your dreams. You just have to take these little mental vacations. And it sounds like that's what go-kart racing was for you, where you're having difficulty in certain areas, and then in counseling they tell you have a spot where you can take a mental vacation. For you, it seems like that's behind the wheel of a race car.
Yeah, and it's like when I'm behind the wheel, I feel like I'm just a different person. Like I get out of the race car, and it's kind of one of those moments like, oh my God, I was just doing 180 with 40 of my friends. Like that's insane. Like
it's crazy. You wouldn't pass a operational risk management quiz if you're trying to do that on the weekend and you're still in the Air Force.
Not at all. So, for me, it was just that escape, like I could go and escape, reality essentially. And, when I first started this journey into NASCAR, I really didn't want to bring up the whole disabled veteran part, just because I don't want people to feel a certain way about me. Like I'm a person. It's a part of my life. It doesn't define who I am.
Yes.
It's just something that I've had to deal with and learn how to cope. But, going to these races, we have to do autograph sessions, and I couldn't help but notice the amount of veterans that were coming through the autograph lines. And, you could see that some of them had, visible disabilities. And so I started to do research on disabled veterans in NASCAR, and I was really kind of shocked and saddened that there hadn't been any, and it was kind of like that feeling that, when you get out of the military, you've given up the best years of your life, and now you just, work at Target, have a family and, drink a lot of beer. And that's, I think that is kind of a misconception that, I think we should break, that, you can go out and do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, and I think between guys like you, and we've had Jesse Owuji on the show as well, he's doing great things. I'm just really excited that you have the personality that you do, because a lot of times people look at military veterans and you have to be like grunt style apparel and like really
Yeah.
after it. And then you go to your Instagram page and it's you with the bleach blonde mullet with stripes in the side of your head, posed in some superimposed Photoshop polar bears in front of some Alaska mountains. And I'm like, yes, like that is what a majority of veterans are like. We're just fun. We enjoy having a good time. And occasionally we like taking some risks. That's the reason why we ended up in the military. And that's the reason why you ended up behind the wheel of a race car.
Yeah. And I mean, the keys to success in life are taking those risks, right? Like, in October, I was in Alaska working a 9-to-5 job. I had a comfortable career. They let me go travel to race, but deep down inside, I knew that I wanted to be racing more and I wanted to be involved in racing. And to do that, I'd have to move to North Carolina. And so I went into work one day and said, hey, this isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life. I don't want to be known as the guy that was a part-time race car driver and worked on radar sites in Alaska. I was like, I want to be known as the guy that took risks and, hopefully changed some lives with my story. And I told him I was quitting and walked away from a really comfortable career, drove 8,000 miles to North Carolina with all of my. Oh, it was, well, some parts I got pretty quick, but there might be some.
See, I think that's one thing. If you have like they should give you a NASCAR license. And if you get caught going like 130 on the highway and it's not like dangerous and nobody's around, they should be like, oh, well, this guy knows what he's doing. You're fine.
Yeah, get a pass. I got a speeding ticket doing 71 into 65. And it's, I went to court and I was like, I'm kind of a professional at this. And it didn't help.
I was fortunate. I got to go to Daytona too and just ride in one of the pace cars. And I believe it was Rusty Wallace that was the driver of one of the cars that was taking us around. And he was telling us how difficult it is because a lot of the guys that are driving, they drive themselves home from the track or they'll drive themselves to the hotel or whatever. And he said he got into his regular Camaro that he drove after the race was over. And he said pulling out of Daytona and getting onto the International Speedway there, where the speed limit is like 35, 45 miles an hour. He's like, you have no idea how difficult it is to go from driving nearly 200 miles an hour to dropping down to 35, 40. He said it feels like you're pulling your own teeth out.
Yeah, like you're going so slow. It's like, this is horrible. I was like, when I left Daytona after testing, I was exact same feeling. I was like, we're going down the front stretch in front of the racetrack, and you're doing 25, 35 miles an hour, and you're just like, this is so slow. Like, I can't do this.
And do you think the principles of almost like the way the military does it, like you start out on boot camp and then that's the initial training. Then they take you to your MOS school, your tech school that you have. And then you go, and then you're a young troop, you're a junior enlisted person, and then you get more and more experience. That's almost the same path that you're taking in racing, right? Like where you started out go-kart and you're doing baby steps all the way up, eventually hoping to get to the big boy stuff.
Yeah.
And what you're doing now.
Yeah, it's there's definitely that progression, like from going from the go-karts to the Whelen series to the K&N series, the trucks, into Xfinity would be next, and then on to the Cup series. So yeah, it's just a progression that you got to go through and do your time, and but at this level, it's really getting your story out there and getting a following and letting people know who you are and what you're about, and being marketable, and hopefully that's what I can do. Hopefully people start, hearing my name more and picking up on my story and reaching out and sharing their stories. I love when followers of mine tell me their stories, and, it's really encouraging to hear.
And I think the people that are listening, because we're two Marines and an Army guy that usually are on the podcast, so we don't get to hear from Air Force people that often. What was your job in the Air Force? What did you do there?
I was a radar specialist on the AWACS. So I'm
going to pretend like I know what that is. Just for those who are listening that might not know, like I very clearly do. What does that mean?
So AWACS is the Airborne Warning and Control System. It's the Airborne Radar System. It's the plane with the giant dish on the roof of it.
Oh, okay.
Looks like it's flying around with a space shuttle on top. So
that's the one I don't understand how it flies. Like that plane, looking at it, you're like, that thing should not be in the air.
Yeah, and it shouldn't. It flies really slow. We flew from Alaska to Japan. It was like 15-hour flight. with, a couple airborne refuelings, and it was miserable. But
oh, so your job was actually inside the plane too?
No, I didn't like flying, so I just fixed it when it landed. But when we go TDY, we'd have to jump on board and get ferried across the Pacific on it. But yeah, we'd let the college guys break it, then the high school guys would fix it. That was how it worked out.
There you go. That's awesome. And one more thing, I gotta imagine, coming from where you come from, your background, your mom would be so proud. Like, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but she's an Olympian.
Yeah,
gold
so
medalist,
my mom's, I take a lot away from my mom. My mom taught me some huge lessons when I was a kid. So it was early 1980s. My mom was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, paralyzed on the right side of her body. She was told she'd never walk again. And in 1988, she won an Olympic gold medal in downhill skiing in Calgary, with full use of her limbs. A few years later, she decided she wanted to walk away from the sport and raise her kids. Her goal wasn't to become famous. It was just to, prove to herself that she could really do whatever she wanted to, as long as she believed in herself. And, the lessons that taught me as a kid have, helped me out with so much in my life, especially following my accident and, kind of just proving to myself that I can do whatever I want to. I just have to believe hard enough in myself.
There you go. And I think that lesson is a great lesson for all those that are listening and going to be watching you on Friday night on Fox Sports, right? On Fox Sports 1?
Fox Sports 1 Friday night. It's going to be fun. It's going to be
fun. I cannot wait to see what you do, Keith. Last time you said your goal, I believe I read an article on MSN that your goal was to come out clean, to finish. You finished in the top 30. ZBT squad is going to be rooting you on to do. Let's shoot for top 20. Let's just keep going step. We don't want to put too unrealistic expectations on you.
Yeah, top 20 is definitely my goal for this race. This one, the goal not to be clean. I'm going to lean on this truck. I'm going to use my equipment, and I'm going to hammer down and get after it. Top 20 or the wall is the goal. So
there you go. Love to hear it. Keith, thank you so much, man. We're honored to help you out and be a part of it this weekend. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. Do you want to hear about my mullet?
Oh yeah. Let's hear about the mullet.
So the picture of me with the blonde mullet, I think last May I decided for Halloween I wanted to be Joe Exotic. Joe Exotic was huge during quarantine. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is going to be good. There's going to be a lot of Joe Exotics for Halloween, but how many of them are going to have the actual mullet?
You're right.
So end of May, I bleached my mullet completely white. And I didn't go anywhere. I watched one YouTube video and was like, I can do this myself. Bleached it myself, which come to find out.
It looked good. I mean, to do it yourself from a box kit, you did a great job.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a box kit. I went and got like the real bleach that they use. But apparently you're only supposed to bleach it once, like every few days to get it to where it needs to go. And I bleached it 3 times in one day. And surprisingly, none of my hair fell out. My entire scalp peeled, like it calloused and my whole scalp peeled, but it stayed. And then, I let it grow and it's,
it's a marketable tool. You need to go to Sally Beauty before the race and get it going again. I'm not saying I think it's a good idea.
It completely killed my hair. So I don't know if I'll ever go back to bleach blonde again, but it was like walking around with a head of straw for the past year. So it's finally back to healthy, and the blonde's still there a little bit, but it's growing out. So who knows? There
you go. And then while you're there, I know you're a single dude. You'd be making a mistake if you didn't put down in Charlotte on your tender or whatever you use, the number 3 driver for the NASCAR Truck Series. That's got to put some asses in the seats.
That would definitely help out. I'm definitely single, so if there's any single ladies out there wanting to date a NASCAR driver, shoot me a DM.
There you go. Love it. All right, Keith, thanks so much, man. We'll look forward to checking back in with you after the race.
Thank you. And are you coming? I heard Dave said you might come.
I'm trying to, man. I got some things going on. I have some counseling appointments that I'm trying to push back, but if I could be there, I'm going to.
Okay. Sounds good. Brother. Look forward to it, man.
All right. Thank you. See ya.
Thank you.